Next slide.
Yep. All right. We are now live on YouTube. So Stacy, you can.
So welcome to the Revere School Committee meeting for our school improvement plans. And today we have Dr. Perella from Revere High School and Dr. Mulligan from the Seacoast Academy. Need a roll call, please.
Mrs. Bronson Rizzo.
Here.
Mr. D'Ambrosio. Mr. Ferranti.
Here.
Ms. Gravelis.
Here.
Mr. Sonella.
Here.
Ms. Thai.
Here.
Mayor Arrigo.
Joining us as we speak. I just clicked joining. There he is.
He's here.
Mr. Mayor, we were just doing the roll.
Here. Mr. Mayor.
Here.
Okay.
Oh.
I apologize for being late, everyone.
You have a city to run. Diane, how would you like to start?
Yeah, I can just give a little intro like I did on the other one. So this is the school committee's third presentation on school improvement plans. We had the elementary one yesterday and the middle schools presented earlier today. And, you know, similar to those presentations, the high school principals are going to share with us their school improvement plans, and they followed a similar path as the other principals did by beginning with the district improvement plan in mind first. And as you know, our district improvement plan was informed by a community meeting that we held last February and really framed our work. And then that work was adjusted over the summer in light of all of the racism issues that surfaced both in Revere and across the state and across the country. And so after we developed our district improvement plan with feedback from the community, our administrative team refined it. We presented that to this body, which approved it a couple of months ago. And then the principals took the district improvement plan back to their instructional leadership teams, school improvement councils, and worked with their smaller communities within the Revere Public Schools to develop their own school improvement plan, which is largely grounded in the district improvement plan. And there are some similarities across schools as we want to maintain some continuity of our work and be able to capitalize on each other's expertise and all be kind of rowing in the same direction, if you will, as we try to move the district forward. You'll see some overlap in priorities among the plans, but also some differences where schools are focused specifically on the needs of their particular students and families. And so I think that you'll see that in the presentation that Dr. Mulligan and Dr. Perella are going to give us right now. And so with that, I will share my screen so that we can see their presentation and pass the baton to them to speak to us.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly, Mr. Mayor, and esteemed school committee members. It's an honor to be here with you this afternoon. We're very excited to present our school improvement plans. This afternoon, Dr. Mulligan and I will alternate slides, and this is both for us to each have an opportunity to speak, but also I think it reflects the work we've been doing together in collaboration. One of our goals has been to really align how secondary students experience the Revere Public School System, and that make sure that we have a cohesive connection between our schools so we can work collaboratively in that nature. Dr. Mulligan will begin with the first slide.
Good afternoon, everyone. So the first slide that we're presenting is Strategic Initiative 1.1 to increase gender and racial diversity of staff, particularly among teachers and administrators. So both schools will be recruiting, hiring, and supporting and retaining faculty members of color. The way we thought this was that we could do this most effectively would first be to join the MPDE. The MPDE stands for the Mass Partnership for Diversity in Education. It's a group of districts that all come together to work on trying to diversify their staff. I go to meetings once a month with Dr. Garcia. I'm sure Dr. Perella will join us at some point, but it's a great place to network. They hold 3 job fairs throughout the year. They actually have a pool of candidates, admin and educators that are available, so it'll be a great resource for us. I know that Revere has participated in the Inspire Fellowship through DESE. That's basically a group of educators of color that come together and work with DESE to help educational leaders recruit. They help with curriculum that's culturally responsive. And they just basically demonstrate the importance of having teachers of color in your district. So hopefully through the formation of affinity groups, I know that Revere tried last year, but Dr. Garcia and I are trying to put some affinity groups together in Revere this year. If you're not familiar with affinity groups, it's basically teachers that come together of like backgrounds. So it could be educators of color, it could be educators that identify in the LGBTQ community. They can be all different, but hopefully when this forms, we'll be able to speak to more teachers of color and try to get back into the Inspired Fellowship, and we can be a part of that again. I know that we had one teacher that was part of it last year. And we both have equity teams at our schools individually. And these equity teams also have members that sit on the equity advisory board for the district as well. We both hope to create and expand opportunities to bring diversity into our buildings through interns, volunteers, and student teachers. And we hope to build partnerships and networks with local minority-owned and operated organizations and businesses. Right now, I reached out to Messier after one of our last presentations. I'm looking to expand a different pathway for my students here at Seacoast. Most of my students will not go to a 4-year college right out of high school. So creating a pathway where they could possibly get a job in IT would be something that would be great for us. I spoke with Messier and they're interested. They're also interested in working with the high school as well. So that's one step, but we both like to reach out to more organizations right here in Revere.
Next slide, please. With the exception of the first slide, both the remaining slides will have a both schools component, and then there'll be some differences between the schools. The first slide is something that we're trying to take the lead from the district, and we appreciate the work that's been put in. And right now we're aligning our priorities in that manner. For Strategic Initiative 2.1, this is about training in the learning experiences on anti-racism, restorative practices, and equity for all staff members and students. And this is obviously something that's been ongoing for many years. Both schools have an acute focus on social emotional learning practices, and we initiated them especially this year in light of the pandemic and the remote settings that we found ourselves in. Our equity teams, their focus and their discussions are all on these experiences. Right prior to this meeting, I was in an equity team meeting at the high school, and we were having this conversation. And in fact, we were looking at this initiative and thinking about specific ways we could implement on it. Our equity audit that is taking place, thanks to Dr. Garcia, once that is through, we will review that information and then take action from that. At the high school, we've identified and we've made clear and articulated this humanistic approach to teaching and learning, which sounds kind of pie in the sky, but really is important in that we are resetting our priorities on individuals and on as children, basically, and not the content, but really reaching the students in front of us. The restorative practices professional learning groups are geared and working toward this. This is teacher leaders that are having conversations with teachers. It's all teacher driven, and their focus is in a similar manner. Our equity team has created equity workshops. Especially coming up in February, we'll be having, because it's Black History Month, we'll be spending a lot of time in these workshops, and these workshops do include students about specific needs and examples in the news that we sort of react to. At Seacoast, They are continuing a bi-monthly school-wide professional learning opportunities for staff that do address racial inequities and restorative practices. They have a weekly equity and restorative justice team meetings as well. And their advisory lessons, their weekly advisory lessons, are aligned with staff's professional development focus in this area. And then the formation of student-led restorative justice teams and restorative justice mentoring partnerships with the Beachmont School for elementary students is unique to the Seacoast High School. Next slide, please.
Strategic Initiative 3.1, create, adopt, and apply equitable practices across the district. So both schools at this point have admin and educators that sit on the grading practices subcommittee. That will continue, especially as mainly the high school is moving towards the CBL model. But even with Seacoast having already been in the model, we still need to continue to look at what our grading practices are and make them better as we move forward. Review teaching practices to ensure that there is culturally proficient instruction and curriculum in all academic areas. This work will take place in our ILTs and our PLGs that John just mentioned, to make sure that in every class we are teaching our students with culturally responsive curriculum. We're eliminating any students that are going to fail from attendance, which is really great. We had a data team meeting just here yesterday at Seacoast, and we were able to see that the difference from removing FA, we were able to move students through 218 classes that they would have usually have failed just for attendance. So the CBL model is already working. At the high school, they're rolling out a 5-year strategic plan for CBL. During this rollout, there will be PLGs that are restorative practice and competency-based learning focused. At Seacoast, like I said, we've been doing CBL now for a year, but when I got here, I noticed that there wasn't really any checks and balances system to see how CBL is doing, are the kids passing, what's happening in the classroom now that we're at CBL. So this year we formed a data team that is really going to analyze the CBL practices, the attendance, any social emotional learning, and discipline moving forward. Next slide.
Initiative 3.2 is creating opportunities for parent engagement and input in school and district decision-making. We think this is a vital initiative and critical to any success that the schools or the district will have. So both schools have hired family liaisons, and they have been extremely effective in really connecting us to parents and families in a variety of manners. We've recruited parents and community members for positions on the school improvement councils. At Revere High School, in the fall, we had bi-weekly community forums and webinars where we sort of shared information and communicated with families some of the changes that were taking place, not only in the remote setting, but also some of the CBL structures that we were hoping to implement. There is a weekly community message via Sunday email where we send out, where we connect to upcoming events, as well as really sharing information about what's happening. These are all translated into different languages and sent in different languages. And we have begun this semester, we are now on our 3rd community working group session, where we work with parents and we introduce and receive feedback on some of the changes in the grading system and really the CBL structures that are unique and quite foreign, I think, to many people outside of the educational world. At Seacoast, their schedule allows for daily communications with students and families is built into their schedule. They have a monthly newsletter, as well as they are also hosting parent forums each trimester to also address some of the concerns and the changes that are taking place in the schools. Next slide, please.
Strategic Initiative 5.2 to increase opportunities for student voice. Both schools are really looking at taking restorative practice to the next level. It's been in many conversations throughout the state how we discipline our students, and just the everyday interactions with students that we're having between teachers, between admin. So that's going to be a priority. Expand electives and internship opportunities. Just recently, we got involved with the high school senior intern education project from DESE. We're working with Diana Finn at the high school to get our seniors involved in more internship projects. They're already up and running, and we selected a few students. I know the high school also has selected a few students to get involved with that. At the high school, they're going to continue to engage in school schedule redesign. The detracking committee will always be student focused, and students will be involved in that discussion. And just like those working group sessions are having with families, they'll facilitate student working group sessions as well. At Seacoast, we're implementing more performance-based assessments in all classrooms. As you guys know, my students have not really had success in the traditional high school model. Oftentimes, the traditional high school model also has traditional testing. We're hoping to move even further away from that and give students an opportunity to demonstrate really what skills they have by implementing more performance-based assessments. We don't have as many opportunities as the high school does for course selection because we are a credit recovery school, but we do want to give them more opportunities to have chances to make up classes that they've already failed in the past. So our current schedule gives them an opportunity to be in classes, making up and catching up on former classes that they have failed in the past. So that's where, you have one more slide. I'm sorry, John.
That's okay. And the last initiative is 6.4, ensuring teaching practice across classroom focus on effective student-centered deeper learning experiences. Of course, we can change a lot of structures in the systems and the schedules, but ultimately this is going to come down into the classroom and the instruction that takes place in the classroom. And our priority is to support that instruction in light of the changes that we've already mentioned. So both schools are going to provide specific feedback from their observations on implementing this student-centered and deeper learning experience, all of course in the goal of improving student learning. Our focus group discussions that we'll be conducting will be really to survey all stakeholders to assess understanding and effectiveness of these student-centered and deeper learning experiences. And of course, displaying student work and celebrating student work on the school and district level to showcase this change in this understanding that is specific to the deeper learning that we're discussing. At Revere High School, we're going to continue the CBL PLG work. This is really important. This is a massive paradigm shift for educators as well as students and families to talk about what student-centered teaching and learning looks like. And again, I know under Dr. Garcia's leadership, Revere High School took big steps in this over the past 5 to 10 years, and we're going to continue those steps. We're creating and implementing the MCIEA tasks. This is another partnership that we have that really provides a tremendous amount of information to us. Remember, we're offering professional development on technology platforms. And of course, this is very relevant to today in remote learning that collect and consist of formative student data, meaning that it allows teachers to better understand how students are learning the material. And at Seacoast, identifying and sharing best practices during the PLG time, as well as calibrating observation feedback by all administration to the staff and sharing that. We'd be happy to answer any questions regarding any of the specifics of these school improvement plans at this time.
Thank you. Any members have questions? Mrs. Rizzo?
Yes, the MPDE group, was that another name before, like Affirmative Action Consortium?
I think it was. I do think it was. I've only been involved with MPD since it's been MPD, but I remember in one of my first meetings that they had said that they had made a change in the name of the organization.
Yeah, they do great work. I'm glad you're on board. Great. And I think, Dr. Perella, I was just wondering how the feedback on the grading system is going. Has it improved?
Yeah, I think it has. I think it's a very challenging. What we're taking on is challenging work, and really getting the community to understand and buy in, and really, and more importantly, I would say, help steer where we go with this as far as timing and next steps. So I found that the first 2 sessions were amazing. Well, the webinars were really interesting, but there were more presentations. And the last 2, we have one next Wednesday, and you guys are all welcome to come as well. These are parent working group sessions. But in those, there's some amazing conversations taking place. We're learning a lot. We're getting a lot of positives from it. And I think there's a strong appreciation for the sharing of the work, And our understanding, of course, this is a small group, there's only about 15 parents that volunteered for this, is that there's more clarity that regarding some of the shifts that are taking place. So yes, I think it's coming along.
Great, baby steps. And then I just have one question for Dr. Kelly regarding restorative practices, and wondering if we have someone in district that trains our staff, or do they still go out and get training for restorative practice?
We do a combination of both. I'll let Dr. Garcia actually speak to this because it's in his under his purview. But the short answer is that we have both. Go ahead, Doc.
Yes, we have used Suffolk University, an institution that specializes in restorative justice. They have done some work at the high school level.
Mhm.
But this Monday, I have a meeting with a representative from that institution to actually provide in-coach service, not just in-coach service, but also training and professional development for our principals, directors, and assistant, principals. It's going to be something that we want to build on and for sustainability for the future. So starting this Monday, I have a meeting with her around 10 o'clock to discuss strategies and approaches that we're going to use to make sure that the practice is infused in every structure of our school district.
Oh, thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Mrs. Rizzo. Any other members have any questions or comments? Ms. Ty, and then we'll get you, Mr. Franti. Go ahead, Ms. Ty.
I have a question for Dr. Mulligan. I mean, this work, granted, this work that you're doing is very hard and very emotionally challenging for people who are on all sides of it. But when you were talking about on your page, I looked at the members of the school community will act and behave in ways that do not show racism and inequality as measured by school climate surveys. I'm wondering how you are going to be able to do that. So you have a school climate survey and do people report what they feel is inimical to their best behavior and their best interests? Do you feel that students will be open about maybe even criticisms of what they have of staff? That takes a good deal of confidence in all of the staff. Now, I don't know everybody down there personally. I do know that people are working very hard down there at Seacoast School. And I've heard wonderful things about you in the neighborhood as well. So I think that's a tremendous challenge. How are you approaching that? And how do you hope that you will have success in doing that?
I can definitely tell you 100% it is not an easy endeavor. Oftentimes I am struggling day to day with it.
No.
And not because of the community that I'm necessarily working in, just because it's very personal to me. It's difficult nationally watching what's happening and then having to come into school and have difficult conversations with people. I can tell you that the students they're the most honest, open people ever. They will always tell you the hard truth, sometimes when you don't want to hear it. So I never worry about the students being open and honest. They will always give us the real. I think it's more challenging working with adults because a lot of this work is years and years of learned behavior. It's our families, it's our environment. And I think I do a pretty good job of making people feel safe and comfortable to talk to me about it. I'm not judgmental, even though privately I want to be, but I can't do that because I'm a leader in my school. But it is really difficult having these conversations day to day, but I make spaces for them to have these conversations. I think Seacoast is unique because we're kind of ahead of the game with the restorative practices. Probably because our kids have had so much trouble in the past, so we needed a different environment probably a little bit different than the other high school and the other schools, just because our kids have a lot more going on. So I have many members of my staff that are trained on restorative practices. I have a very solid equity team here that is doing the work with me, so I'm not alone in it.
Right.
My equity team members are also sitting on the equity advisory board for the district. So we're able to communicate a lot of the good things that are happening in Seacoast with the entire district. But I'm definitely not going to lie, it's really challenging being in a district that is 90% white and sitting on an admin team where there's only one other person that looks like me. It is challenging every day, but I'm just happy that the district is committed to this work because it makes it a lot easier. It's a lot harder when you have a district that's not committed and you're pushing for change and having these conversations. But with the support of Dr. Kelly and Dr. Garcia, it does make it a lot easier to do the work, but it's not easy work. But I'm plugging through every day and saying a little prayer every morning before I come to work and just keep on pushing.
Thank you so much. And thank you for keeping on pushing. That's really important. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tai. Any other members? Mr. Franti?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is to both Dr. Mulligan and Dr. Perella. The ninth grade is obviously an important year where they've had to do strictly remote instead of in-person learning. How are they doing? Plus the parent participation, is it gotten less? Is it more? Is it even to what we normally have? You just, give us, answers to those questions, please.
I'll answer it quickly because I don't have any ninth graders. So I haven't experienced that. My participation with the paras has been great. My one para that I do have is remote, 100% remote. She has issues where she needs to be remote, but I mean, she's been able to help remote just as well as she would be able to do it in person. We have something called academic seminar. It's at the end of every trimester where we give the kids 2 more weeks to try and push themselves to the finish line if they're at that space where they're almost ready to receive competency. And our para really is pivotal in that time. She comes and she helps in the home stretch to get those kids to the right place. So I'm very fortunate to have her.
I think that's an extremely accurate statement, Michael. Not only are they coming into a school and never really experiencing the school, but they also didn't have any closure in the 8th grade. They weren't able to really end that chapter of their educational life. And typically we have very robust programs over the summer that allows 9th graders to come in and get acclimated to the school. So we're really operating under a lot of challenging situations here. So that's a good point. Our understanding is that the 9th grade is having some troubles, obviously. We will be doing some data diving, obviously, with the end of the semester coming up to get a better analysis of failures and passes. But it has been a challenge getting students to connect and to stay connected with us. We continuously, I know the APs, there's 2 APs for the 9th grade, and they have been daily interacting with students and families and sending home correspondences and setting up meetings, as well as the 9th grade teachers as a whole. They are somewhat cohorted in that in the preparation for this year, we sort of established cohorts for 9th and 10th grade especially. So we have the systems in place to communicate and to make those connections, but there's no denying that this is a concern for us. And I would also add, throughout the country, we're seeing that schools across the country are having real problems with the really retaining the focus from 9th graders. I talk to principals in the GBL on a weekly basis, and every single one of them identifies a 9th grade class as the most challenging and concerning, other than, of course, the seniors, which we're looking to ensure that they have a clean send-off. But the 9th grade class is a definitive concern for us as well.
All right, thank you.
Any other members have any questions or comments? Ms. Gravellisi?
Thank you, Mayor Rigo. And I'd like to thank you, Dr. Perella and Dr. Mulligan, for all of your hard work. Just a couple of quick questions. Dr. Perella, You mentioned that the equity audit was in progress. Do we have any idea of the timeline of when that might be complete and we'll be able to review those results?
I'll defer it to Dr. Garcia, who's overseeing that equity audit.
Yes, so we are right now embarked on the third phase of the equity audit, which will encompass developing surveys and developing also interview focus groups with parents, students, all of you, school committee members, central office, the business office, and many other stakeholders. We just had a meeting a few days ago, 2 days ago, which Dr. Perala participated in, along with 3 middle school principals, one middle school principal and 1 elementary school principal. So it was a very engaging conversation, and the purpose of that meeting was for us to, as a system, to come together, to really propose some ideas and some strategies in terms of how to really maximize the number of participants in the surveys and also in the focus group. It's going very well. There are 2 representatives from Mass Insight leading the effort. They understand what it really takes to really do a robust equity audit. They have a lot of experience in the area. So right now, the phase 3 of the data collection will start in February, all the way to March, probably beginning of first week of April. And then, they will spend May to compile the data, and then compile the findings and the recommendations. And we hope that by June, there will be a meeting with the school committee members, with the public and everyone else, where they'll be engaged in finding sharing and providing some. They will also provide, in addition to providing us with a report and the findings, what they have found in Revere in terms of strengths and areas of improvement. There will be also a public hearing, which it's done in the format of a school committee, where the report will be shared. They are thinking about sharing the results also with different constituents, with central office, school committee, and then probably do one with the public. But we're still debating that. But it's going very well. We have done the data collection which encompasses, collecting information from principals in terms of, disaggregating, assessments, reviewing student handbooks, reviewing all kinds of artifacts, which principals have done, and principals and directors really did a very good job. We are basically at the end of that. That's where we are, and it's going very well, and I will keep you posted as we go along. So you yourselves will be involved in this process as well, because there will be surveys that will be coming along with the focus group interviews. So this is a robust undertaking that we are really embarking on, and I think it's good for our district, because the findings that will emerge from this equity will shed light on many of the aspects that we need to work on, and also it will provide us with a good framework, not just the central office, but also the principals and our community in general, where we need to really put a lot of emphasis. There will be a lot of questions regarding racial disparities, and there will be a lot of questions about marginalized populations and things like that. Those are some of the things we want to work on to make sure that we continue to build a more equitable school system that addresses the needs of parents and every student in our district.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. We're glad to
Well,
hear that you're that far along in the
you.
process. That's really great. I did have one more question, if I can continue, Mayor Arrigo. This was for Dr. Mulligan. I had just, in one of the, under 2.1, you had mentioned that your students have a restorative justice collaboration with the Beachmont Elementary. Just curious, like what that is. It sounds like it's a great opportunity for your students to work with the younger students. So if you could just tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. It hasn't happened yet. This is what we want to do moving forward.
Oh, okay.
But we have a lot of students that are interested in restorative justice. The RJ team does have students on it as well. And we thought moving forward, since the idea is we're not really supposed to implement restorative practice just in high school. It's supposed to start at elementary, and it becomes the way as you move through high school. So we thought having some of our high school students start doing those circles with the elementary would be great. A lot of our kids already volunteer down there just to help out in some of the classrooms, but it would just be a great way for them to connect even more with the students and get them used to being in the process of talking and sharing and taking your turn with holding the talk rock. So our kids were excited about it, and Percy was excited to jump in with the opportunity. It had come up in one of our Just Us meetings that maybe we should start doing this with the kids. And because Percy and I share the same building, we thought it would be a great opportunity to pilot it here for everybody. So I'm hoping that it's successful. We already have a bunch of kids that are interested. So I'll keep you informed on how it goes.
Definitely great. Keep us posted on that. It sounds like it's a great opportunity for the Seacoast kids to be working with the Beachmont Elementary. We're looking forward to hearing more about it. Thank you.
Any other members? Okay. Seeing none, is there a motion to approve both the Revere High School and Seacoast school improvement plans?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second,
Second, okay, roll call.
Mrs. Bronson Rizzo,
yes.
Mr. D'Ambrosio, Mr. Ferranti,
Yes.
Ms. Gravelis,
Yes.
Mr. Sinella,
Yes.
Ms. Tai,
Yes.
Mayor Arrigo.
Yes. Seeing no further business before the school committee, we will adjourn. I want to thank Dr. Perella and Dr. Mulligan for their great work. Please keep it up, and really appreciate all that you do for our families and for our students.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
We appreciate your support
Great
as well.
job.
Have a great
Thanks.
weekend.
Thank you.
Good job. Yep.
Thank you.